Yeah, so I speak from my experience as a military commander, and also from my experience as the ambassador to South Korea. I believe that the DPRK, the North Koreans will always object, and they may even conduct a provocation of some sort. You know, we're starting to see the resumption of what I used to call the provocation cycle. You know, there's a provocation, and then there might be a concession by the allies, and then there's a rising tensions, another provocation, another concession, and we go on in this way. But when I say we, I mean the United States and South Korea. We cannot let this prevent us from ensuring that we have the military readiness and capability to respond to any threat from the North. Look, the U.S. Is a treaty ally with South Korea, and we take our treaty obligations seriously. And we lost a lot of time last year because of COVID. It's imperative that we do these joint exercises. And I'll just remind your viewers that the joint exercises we're talking about that are ongoing right now are computer exercises. There aren't forces in the field that are responding to any exercise scenario. These are computer generated exercises. So finally, I'll just say that to give up on exercises simply to entice North Korea to come back to the negotiating table is a fool's errand. Right now, if a reduction of exercises is an outcome of negotiations, then that's perfect. That's why you have negotiations. But to give it up, to give them away before you even have negotiations, simply to entice the other party to come to the table would be a big mistake in my view. Yeah, so I don't know what North Koreans' intentions are. You'll have to ask them. You know, I'm a poor judge of that. But I will say that we cannot let the mere possibility that exercises will somehow negatively impact the U.S.-North Korean relationship. We can't let even the mere possibility of that cause us not to do the things that we have to do to ensure that we, the United States and South Korea, are militarily ready to face any contingency that should arise. If the DPRK, if the North Koreans had responded to the offer of negotiations a year ago, 6 months ago, even 2 months ago, then we could have had a discussion about reducing or changing the scope or the contours of the exercise as part of a negotiation. But they wouldn't come to the table. In fact, they haven't responded to the South Korea's hotline calls for 3 days in a row. So that doesn't seem to me indicative of a regime that's serious about negotiating. It seems to me that that is a regime that is intent on pronouncements and provocations and all of the above. And that underscores even more, in my view, the unpredictability of North Korea. And therefore, at the same time, underscores the absolute imperative that the United States and South Korea exercise together in order to ensure that they have the military capability to resist any or to respond to any provocation from the North. No, there could be. I mean, you know, as I said, we can't let even the possibility of a provocation prevent us from being ready to respond in case the provocation is a serious one. So, you know, North Korea will do what North Korea will do. And we have to do what we are obligated to do, which is to exercise our capability to meet our treaty obligations to defend South Korea. Yeah, clearly the ball is in North Korea's court. Look, you don't give something away before you have a negotiation. I mean, that is a poor negotiating tactic. You have a negotiation, and then you bring to the table all of those things which are important to you. From North Korea's perspective, they would bring those issues like exercises and sanctions. From the American and South Korean perspective, we would bring issues to the table like denuclearization and lowering the stress level, tension level rather, and things like that. So, but you don't give it away before you have negotiations. That's why you have negotiations. And I'm pleased that the Biden administration has accepted the Singapore agreement as a starting point. The Singapore agreement certainly is not perfect, but it is an excellent point from which to conduct future negotiations. You don't have to go back to the beginning as previous administrations have had to do and start all over. So the Singapore agreement gives the Biden team a very advanced place from which to start conducting negotiations with the North. And I applaud them for recognizing that. So I'll just close on this question by saying the door is open. The United States has extended the open hand of friendship to the North, but it's up to the DPRK, and they simply have to walk through that open door and grasp a bright future that awaits them. I think there's a lot of things that are different. COVID, of course, is one of the things that has dramatically changed the landscape, both in the North and the South, and their international relations and how they interact with each other, among other things. But I think in a different vein, I think there's a lot that's different with the new administration's approach to North Korea as opposed to previous administrations, whether you're talking the Trump administration or the Obama administration. There's just a lot that's different. Most importantly, right out of the starting blocks, the Biden team and President Biden himself recognizes that alliances form the cornerstone of American foreign policy, and that's just critical. And he recognized the primacy of the Indo-Pacific region. So I think both of these, the reliance and understanding of the importance of alliances and the importance of the Indo-Pacific region, I think the Blue House welcomes or should welcome both of those. And this should be good news to the Blue House. I think his approach to negotiating with North Korea is also different, significantly so. His team has called for a calibrated, constructive, predictable, and practical approach. Kirk Campbell has called this a solutions-based approach. So this is different than the previous administration's all or nothing approach and the Obama administration's strategic patience approach. So I'm excited by where the Biden administration is with regard to alliances and with regard to its approach to North Korea. Now we're just waiting for North Korea to walk through that open door and begin negotiating. I'm not in the business of giving advice to the Biden administration or the Moon administration, certainly publicly and in the media. But I will say that I think it's important, even critical, to avoid the failed approaches of the past, right? So the DPRK, North Korea, they have masterful negotiators, and we have to be ready for that. I think also that idealism is very important, and it's to be admired. But idealism has to be rooted in realism when you're dealing with North Korea. Yeah, so I think breakthrough is a word that's fraught with emotions and hyperbole. So I try to avoid the term breakthrough. I do believe that humanitarian assistance and humanitarian aid stands on its own merits. And countries provide humanitarian aid to other countries because it's the right thing to do. And you don't link humanitarian aid with a negotiating outcome. You know, that's not the right thing to do. The right thing to do is to help friends, allies, partners, and others, in this case, North Korea, when the need is great and you have the capability to provide the aid, and the receiving country, in this case, North Korea, is willing to receive it. And you do it because it's the right thing to do to alleviate suffering amongst millions of people. That said, humanitarian aid can improve trust, and that can set the conditions for a negotiation. And then it's up to the negotiation teams to have an outcome that each of them are going to negotiate for.